easier to see. It's all right. You can see us. You can see me. You can see Nick. Is that right? Thumbs up would be the way you do that. That's how I see. All right. Looks good. All right. Nick, how are you doing, friend?
Good morning. Doing really well. It's a beautiful day in Denver, Colorado.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's good to hear. How much snow have you had so far? Just
Zero snow, but there's some in the forecast for Saturday. That will be our first snow of the year.
yeah. I figured that would be coming. I've got I think Dan lives out that way somewhere. I think he's
Yes.
in Fort Collins. That's where he's in. Yeah,
Yes.
Fort Collins. So he's not so far away from you.
Right.
Hey, Nick, I know, hold the book up again one more time. Let people remember who you are. Nick Shelton, author of An Introvert's Guide to World Domination. So you know that as an introvert, I'm naturally attracted to people like Nick because he's here to help people like me who are introverted and have trouble making friends and getting around people. And Nick's kind of got some of these things figured out. So anyway, Nick said he was going to hang out with us today. And I thought, Nick, we should talk about I've been thinking about adult friendship. And I think a lot of people, particularly we're coming out of we've been in this pandemic-y thing and people were kind of isolated from each other. And now maybe we weren't used to making friends. And I think that we absolutely started off with the idea of learning what some of the problems with isolation are. It's not good for my health, Nick.
Right. They say that we are in we're in a loneliness epidemic these days, that a lot of people are, especially with the tech, there's a lot of tech going on and it makes people a little bit more isolated. And that's apparently very bad for your health to not get the full interactions. You can interact online, sure, but it's not the same as in-person interactions with people.
Yeah, no, right. It's not full fidelity, right? I can't wrap my arms around Nick while I'm here and say, man, it's good to see you, which I might do if I got to see you in person. I don't know if you're a hugger, but we could be that kind of thing, right? Because we're good folks. And so
Yeah.
it's just kind of thing like, and I think that's absolutely right. The thing is, they say that people with friends live longer, that they are better adapted to their social environment. And like you said, we're kind of in this loneliness epidemic, or at least that's what we hear. We hear that people say that it's harder to make friends, et cetera. I'm sure that some of us have thought that from time to time, that it can be hard to make friends. The thing is, I think one thing happens is like when we're kids, it feels like it's a little bit easier, but it's a little bit harder as an adult. And it's normally, I think one of the reasons is I've got a lot of other constraints on my time. I mean, I've got a job, I've got kids, I've got family responsibilities. And that's just one piece of, I think, what goes along to makes it harder to make adult friendships.
Right. It definitely gives you an excuse to not get out there and make those friendships. And it's a legitimate excuse because you're busy. But then, if you want those friends, which you should, it does help to get out to make time for something. And so one thing that I always tell people to do that I do, especially when I go to a new city, is I'll take a cooking class, a dance class, and a language class. And so that way, so like the language class might be a Spanish class, for example. So we're interacting, we're learning Spanish, and then we might say, oh, let's all go out together to a Mexican restaurant and we'll all order in Spanish or something. So we're bonding over a common interest. And the cooking classes, you're making something, but it's kind of a little more intimate because you're working as a team to create something. And then dancing, it's even more intimate because you're usually holding on to somebody. And then they'll say, oh,
Yeah.
after this, let's go out to a place and practice what we learned and dance. And so, and it doesn't have to be those three things. It could be anything, a glass blowing class or something like that. It could be, something where you do practice watercolor. My mother went to a watercolor painting class and met some people in there. So just getting out and doing something, because people bond over those common interests. And if you can get some activity, then, it'll naturally spur the conversation and you can meet more people make some
Yeah,
sense.
no, I think that's absolutely right. Now, Nick, I'm a little disappointed you didn't mention the benefits of networking events with people. I mean, I'm kind of that cat. I don't want to beg Nick, but I think, you might go out and hang out with a few folks there. I really like your ideas of the classes and things like that. But the thing is, it's just getting out and being among people. What I like about your class thing is you're kind of headed in the same direction, which is the thing I like
Right.
that a lot, right?
Yes. Yes. Networking, I do a lot of that as well as you. And that is a really a good way to meet people and, and practice your presentation skills and interaction skills and meeting a lot of cool people. It's, some networking events are better than others. You have really good networking events, but there's a lot of networking events out there that I think they don't quite hit all the marks like yours does. And so, people are kind of hot and cold on it.
Yeah. No. And I get it. Here's the thing. I think that one of the things I like about you and your capability is, your books and so forth is you take, you know how to take a bad networking event and turn it into a good networking event. And the thing is for us, it really is having some strategies for going out there and making a new friend requires effort. It's not going to happen automatically. There is some intentionality that we can use. And the other thing I think I wanted to hear you hit upon this a little bit too is that it almost to make a friend, we have to be able to do this repeatedly, right? It's never a one and done kind of a thing. I mean, for us to get friends and to be entangled with other people's futures and understand who they are, I mean, we have to do this again and again. We show up repeatedly.
Yes. It's all about the showing up. That's the most important part. You have to show up and people want to know, well, what do they do once they show up? But the most important thing is just being in the room initially. Just show up, and maybe the first time you show up, you don't have to be the life of the party. You just have to be in the room and observe and look around, see what's going on, and get an idea of who would you like to meet in that room. And maybe you don't meet them the first time, and maybe them the second or third time. But you have to. It doesn't happen if you don't show up.
Yeah. No. Listen. I think it'd be entirely okay. I know you've got a link down inside here. Let's let people know you've got a book out there to help introverts figure this kind of stuff out. If you're not naturally doing this thing, I think that's great. And thank you for letting me grab you in this moment. And let's talk, just having a conversation about how do we make friendships? Because I think this is super important.
Absolutely. I'm here to help.
Yeah, I know it. You're a good egg, ladies and gentlemen. Applause for my pal, Nick Shelton. By the way, it sounds like this.